In this video we're going to take a look at how to do a line chart in Excel. I've got some data here that shows how things change over time, and that's what a line chart should be used for. If you have you want to show how something changes over time, you put time units across the bottom along the x-axis, and then you make a line for each series that you want to depict. So what I want to have is I want to have the years across the bottom, so I need to select those including the word year. And I want to skip a little bit of data here, so we're going to do a non-adjacent selection. That means I have to hold the control key down while I select the rest of it. So I'm going to hold the control down, and we're going to compare newspapers and magazines over this period of time. And the reason I had to select the year over here is because I want to have this data from row 2 make up my legend. So I have to include this, and I have to include this, and if I don't include this over here, Excel gets confused and gives me a chart that doesn't look anything like what I want. So even though the word year is not going to appear any place on the chart, basically the rule is that when you select your data, even if it's a non-adjacent selection like this, and I hit the wrong key, let's try that again, hold the control key down to do a non-adjacent selection. When you slide the pieces together, they have to form a rectangle. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to create a line chart, and so we go to the Insert tab, and under the Chart group here, there's my line chart option, and most of the time you're probably going to pick the first or the second one here. If you've got a small number of points like I do here, it's kind of nice to have the markers in there. If you've got a lot of points, the markers just kind of clutter it up, but you probably pick one of these two. So we're going to click on OK here, and the first thing I'm going to do as usual is move the chart to a new sheet, and there it is. And that is not what I wanted. It's plotting the year. This blue line up here is the years. And the problem is that Excel always thinks it's supposed to plot a column of numbers. And so even if the numbers are supposed to be down here on the x-axis, it doesn't realize that. It just puts default numbers 1 through 12 down here and tries to plot those numbers. And so I have to tell it not to plot the numbers for the years and to put them down here. So I have to tell it two things. First thing is don't plot them. Second thing is put them down here. And the place where you go to do that is on we're on the Chart Tools on the Design tab. Over here in the Data group, we have to select our data again. So click on Select Data, and here it tells us that it's drawn a line for year, a line for newspapers, and a line for magazines. I do not want year, so click on Year and click on Remove. And now if I pull this off to the side, you can see it's just plotting newspapers and magazines, but it still has the numbers 1 through 12 across the bottom. And so I need to go over here and tell it what I want for my horizontal axis labels, and just click on the Edit button. And then when this comes up, the easiest thing to do is click on this little button here, and then go to the worksheet that has the numbers you want across the x-axis. Drag the mouse over them. It'll show you the selection right here. Click on the button again and click on OK. And now if we kind of pull this off to the side and take a look at our chart, now we have the years down at the bottom. And this is something that happens a lot when you do line charts, because frequently you may have numbers down here instead of words. If it's words, like if it's months, and you've got the names of the months rather than numbers of months, Excel won't have a problem. But if you've got something like years or any other numbers that go across the bottom, Excel's going to have a problem with that, and you're going to have to go in and do what I just did here and remove the series from this side and change your horizontal axis labels on this side, and then click on OK. Now I've talked about formatting in another video, and so we're not going to bother with things like formatting the legend or the labels on the axis or the chart title or anything like that, or adding labels to either axis. But one thing I didn't do in the other videos was talk about changing the colors that Excel gives you here for the default colors for the lines. So let's say that I don't really want this yucky color green here. The easiest way to change it is to right click on it, and it's a data series, and usually when you're doing this, it's the bottom item on the pop-up menu. So we want to format the data series, and it's going to give us some options over here, and I want to do the fill and the line options, and I've got a choice here for the line and the marker. This is actually made up of two things. So for the line, I want to do a solid line, and whoops, it changed the color to blue for me without me having to do anything. That must be the default color, and so I'm good with that. Now if I close this though, and I go back over here and I click off of the line, you'll see the dots are still green. So a line is actually made up of two things with this type of chart. It's made up of the line and it's made up of the point. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to right click again, and it doesn't really matter where on the line I click, and choose Format Data Series, and then we're going to go over here and we're going to choose the paint bucket here, and then I want to change the marker, and the marker has a border which right now is green, and the squares are kind of small, so it's kind of hard to see that there's actually two parts here, but it has a border and a fill color, and I want the border to be a solid line, and again it changed it to blue for me automatically, but I could pick whatever I wanted. And I also need to change the fill color, otherwise I'm going to have a green dot with a blue line around the outside. So I'm going to choose solid here, and again I get the default, but you could choose whatever you want. We're done formatting that now, so let's click on the X to close this here, click off of it, and now if you look, everything is blue. The line is blue, the markers are blue, and the outline around the markers is blue. And that's how you can change the color of a line. You can do the same thing with bars. Just right click them and choose Format Data Series, and that's pretty much all I wanted to cover in this. The main thing to remember when you're doing a line chart is that you have to put time units across the bottom. Always put time units across the bottom when you're doing a line chart.